Many elderly people around the country are especially concerned about negotiations over the federal budget. There is concern about possible cutbacks in programs such as Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. But there's also concern about what the level of spending could mean for elders of the future, not to mention the whole U.S. economy. One of the groups trying to put the programs into focus is AARP. We'd like to welcome as our guest from AARP, the Interim Director for Massachusetts, Michael Murray. Thank you very much for being with us here.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
I think it's clear to our viewers mostly what Social Security means, what Medicare means. There is somewhat more confusion about Medicaid because people, isn't that the program that's for families?
Yes, yes. These are important programs. What we're concerned about in the current deliberations that are happening, as many are arbitrary cuts happening to Medicare and Social Security as part of these short-term deliberations. Medicaid actually has been part of the deliberations. If it does become part of the deliberations, we would have the same concern about Medicaid as well.
And I guess for elders, this is a really important program if they're in the nursing home.
That's correct. I think we would have to watch carefully to see what would be proposed and respond accordingly once we know what would be on the table if Medicaid becomes part of the conversation.
One of the things we have been hearing is that if you look, at least in a longer term at this, there are more people who are going to be drawing down on Medicare than paying into it. All the people in the baby boom generation that are getting old right now. So it seems that something really dramatic has to be done to fix this.
We all pay into these programs and over a lifetime of work, and we really want to try and find the opportunity to have a robust dialogue about how to find solutions. We want to protect and strengthen these programs for seniors, for our children and our grandchildren.
So what do you think that would have to include in that kind of a dialogue?
We all pay into Medicare. We need to understand that as contributors that we all have a benefit that results from Medicare and Social Security as well.
Of course, the other argument we've heard is that at least in the aggregate, people are living longer, and maybe these benefits ought to kick in maybe a bit farther down the line.
We are watching closely with Medicare, the eligibility age looking to be increased from 65 to 67. What we're watching carefully and are concerned about would be the impact on those who've recently retired or soon to be retired, where we would see immediate cost increases as well as premium increases for all of those participating in Medicare.
Of course, that raises the next question. What if you're one of those people, you either retire or you just can't work any longer, but you're still not eligible for Medicare coverage because the age floor has been pushed up? So what are the options likely?
We need to really, this is where we need to have the robust dialogue to understand what the options would be. We don't want to have these kind of conversations take place as part of the deliberations around the fiscal cliff within the next 20 days. The nation needs to have a more direct dialogue with each other and with elected officials.
What about Social Security? Because we've often heard that this is not on the same timetable as far as some kind of a crisis, and maybe it's financially in better shape, and it's not even necessarily part of the budget by some people's way of putting it. So what about Social Security?
What we're watching closely right now is there are deliberations around the cost of living adjustment, and there are conversations about calculating that based on a changed CPI index, consumer price index. Our concern around this is that this index approach is flawed. They're looking at goods and services versus the types of expenses that seniors have to pay for, their prescription drugs, their utilities, the basics that they need to get by. In Massachusetts, on Social Security, we have about 1 million residents in Social Security with an average benefit of $14,000 a year. To make those types of changes can require quite a decision making that they don't want to have to deal with based on prescription drugs, utilities, and other things they may need.
At one end of this debate, we've heard a lot of talk, mainly from Republicans, about the need to reform entitlements. I know it's an umbrella term, and at the other end, we have people say we've paid into this all our lives, and we deserve this, we work for it, this is not just welfare. But somewhere in between, I'm not hearing a whole lot about how we make these programs more cost-effective, especially Medicare.
These benefit programs people have all paid into, and over their lifetime of work. We deserve to have that robust dialogue to understand what our options are to make sure we do protect and strengthen these programs for the current generations and future generations.
How would you suggest a way to get some of the more or less secret dialogue in Washington out on the table? Because right now it looks almost reasonable in a way that Obama and his aides talk to John Boehner and his aides, and they're in behind things, and they're under a bit less pressure. Maybe they can come to terms. So, what's your idea of a better way to do that?
We, like everyone else, are waiting to see the results of these conversations, and that will then allow all of us to make the decisions and understand the implications around this.
What about right now what you're hearing from members of AARP? I guess you've done some polling over the past year or two. Anything you can say about what they would like here?
AARP has made a concerted effort over this past year through Earn to Say, You've Earned to Say. This is an opportunity for us to go out, take the conversation out of Washington, across the country, to hear what our members have to say about all of these programs. This information is something that we have been sharing throughout the year to inform where our members are with these important issues.
And I guess one of the other things you're coming up against here is that we have a pretty much divided government. One bunch of people have a certain number of votes, and the other people have votes, and even the people with fewer votes have a lot of power. So don't you have to deal with that?
We are watching, like everybody else, to see what the outcomes are going to be on both sides of the aisle, and we look forward to working with both sides of the aisle as we move forward.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
From AARP Massachusetts, Michael Murray.